Hello there. You are listening to the Light FM's Girl Talk podcast, brought to you by the Stoner Group at UBS Financial. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
My name's Tricia.
You ever have somebody say something that absolutely rocks your world? You can't get it out of your brain.
You.
Yeah, you do that a lot.
I'm sorry. Counseling helps.
podcast.
Just send me a bill. Yeah. So we had Laura Story, who's a phenomenal artist and a singer, songwriter, worship leader. She's written a new book. Her new book's called I Give Up. We'll post a link to that in the show notes for you. So that's coming out soon. She's got some new music coming out soon too. And she stopped by the radio station and we were doing an interview. You know, we do the interview. Tell us about what's going on in your life, blah, blah, blah. And so we were talking and she said this. She said, if God calls you to do something and you say no, that is disobedience, which I was like, okay, right. I'm on board with that. Got it. And she said, but if you do 3 things halfway, that is also disobedience. Yeah. And my mind exploded at that moment. I was like, oh my word. Mm-hmm. You know, because we think of obedience probably, at least for me, I won't say we because it's me. I think of obedience as doing more, not doing less. Mm-hmm. And I have really been challenged, especially recently, to think smaller instead of bigger. What are the things that God is calling me specifically to? She went on to say, you know, I'm the only mom these kids are going to have. So if I do things to keep me from being a mom of these kids, then I'm not doing what God called me to do. But she also said this too. It was such a great piece. She said, but I also have to make sacrifices to show my kids that Jesus is worth it. I was like, this is transformation.
Wow.
As I dragged my kid to every concert and flea dip and blood drive in the United States, you know, sometimes I feel guilty for that. But I love the way that she put that because I think our minds, when we think obedience, we're thinking doing everything. But God didn't call you to everything.
Well, He wants you to do the one thing He has called you to, do it well.
And but here's the thing. I think we even get caught up on that one thing. Like we think there is one thing that God has called you to do, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think obviously He's called all of us to be moms.
Yes.
You know, that is a calling. We have children. But He's also called us to a ministry here.
Yes.
And so we want to do that well while we can.
Yes.
And He's also called us to as things outside. You know, both of you are wives, so He's called you to be a wife. That's also, so there's not one thing that He's called you to, but He's called you to several different things. But to do them all well, where do we get off base with feeling like the more we do, the more He's going to love us?
That is a great question. And I was thinking today that there are little things that He calls us to do in the moment also. But if I'm thinking about the next thing or 3 things down in my schedule, then I can't do that thing in the moment well. I'll tell you the story. So I dropped my car off to get serviced, and I took a Lyft home, like an Uber driver. Lyft home.
Yeah.
Well, I was running tight on time, and I had everything scheduled to the minute. He took a wrong turn.
Oh, no.
And it was a long, wrong turn. You know, one of those like next exit 3 miles.
And those are so stressful.
Yes. And I'm frustrated because he's supposed to be the driver. He's supposed to take me the right place, you know? And he was chatting, and he was a very nice person. And so anyway, we go, I would say 10, 11 miles out of the way. Ooh. And so now my schedule's blown up. And in that moment, I'm feeling really super frustrated. And I'm kind of in my head going, well, I'm going to be late to work, and kind of gritting my teeth. And then it hit me that I need to be kind to this man, that I need to let that go. And that was what I was being called to in that moment. And that was what it was all about. Even though I know I was going to be a little bit late to work, and then I had all these other things that I had to do that I had to get on track with, it didn't matter. I had to be obedient in that moment to show him that I wasn't angry about his mistake, that I make mistakes, that, you know, there's grace. Yeah. And then I didn't even think about it, but he's driving me to the Billy Graham Training Center. You know,
right?
So, and I've been a little bit frustrated. That would not have been good. I'm going to be like, could you drop me off at Arby's right there? I'll just take it from there. But you know, in that moment, I could feel God calling me to show him grace.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in God inconveniences, because I believe God will interrupt our schedule for divine appointments, for different things, and I don't always answer when he calls. I'm like, oh, wrong number.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that in those inconveniences, I've learned to look for, like, what is it here? What is it here that I need to see, or who is it here that I need to talk to, or who is it that I need to give my attention to? Because, probably one of the things I would have done if I'd been in that car is I'd pulled out my phone and started texting people. I'm going to be late, and
I pulled out my phone.
Yeah, yeah. We need to push this back.
Yeah.
I need 5 more minutes here, whatever, to try to make up the time. And I think we miss those opportunities that are in front of us because we see them only as inconveniences.
That is such a good
Well,
point.
I think it's when you say you kind of ask what I think if you take a second and you don't have to say it out loud, but I think if you say, "Hey, God, what am I supposed to be doing right now, or what am I supposed to be looking for? Is this something that you're causing that I need to be more present, or who do you want me to see or speak to, or it just may make you pause a little bit and reset your mind so that you can see what he may have put in front of you."
Well, I was thinking about this yesterday as we were wrapping up prayer time because we were sharing prayer requests with our team, and there was a gal in there who knows a family who's several members of their family are in the military. One of the guys was supposed to go back and be deployed, and he broke his wrist, so it was pushed back 4 weeks or 6 weeks. I don't remember exactly when. Well, news came back that his platoon had been attacked, and 5 guys were killed. And I was just sitting there thinking, my goodness gracious, I'm so thankful for a broken wrist. I mean, for those other 5 families, I'm, of course, grieving with them and so sad about what happened there. But for this one family to see God move in such an extraordinary way, because they said when he broke his wrist, it was not a good thing because he was going to delay his deployment.
Frustrations.
Exactly.
And not with his team and all kinds of, and just family adjustment and, all of that is just so frustrating to have to try to reset when something like that happens.
And I think it's important to, this is one thing I'm trying to model for my kid, is to really manage my emotions when things don't go how I planned.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I'm not good at it. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I have to apologize a lot because I get it wrong. But there was one situation in particular that still makes me giggle to this day because of the whole conversation we had after the fact. So we were on the way to a station event, my daughter and I, and we had to stop at a convenience store to get some snacks and stuff because we knew we were going to be out in the sun for a long day, so we needed some water, and there was a homeless person there at the convenience store. And so we go into the convenience store, and I just start grabbing all this stuff, and her eyes are getting bigger by the second. She's thinking, this is going to be like a snack-a-palooza.
Right.
I am so excited about this. And when I went up to the counter of paying, she wasn't paying attention, and I had them separated out in one bag and then a bag for us, and she was just like so pumped. And we get out to the outside of the convenience store, and I just said, "Hey, I thought you might could use a snack today," and like half to 3/4 of our snacks went to that person, and she just looked at me like, she just thought she had this expectation that all that was for her, and then we got in the car and I started talking to her about it. I didn't say anything in the moment, but the conversation that we had after that was so telling because I think that when we're that age, especially, like elementary school, middle school age, we think it's all about us. And she was like, my mama is all about me right now. And she's getting me all these snacks.
Funyuns for days.
And well, they were healthy snacks too. So that should have been her first giveaway, But we had a really great conversation about seeing needs and meeting needs with the things that you can, and I don't, like I say, I don't always get it right. So do not hold me as an example because sure as the world, you'll see me at the buy-low today and I will be losing it. So don't in any way think I'm bragging because of that. I'm just saying that in those moments, if we can take a deep breath and think to ourselves, what am I supposed to see in this inconvenience? What am I supposed to how can God use me?
And if you hadn't taken that second, you probably would have plowed right by, made me not even notice the person there.
Yeah.
So, and you're right, the kids are watching us. Every single thing we do, every reaction that we make, the kids are watching. So that's so powerful. Thank you. Let's go with scary.
Yeah, let's go with scary. And the old phrase that kids are lessons are caught, not taught. I think about how much time I spend trying to teach my daughter, the principles of life and the character that I want to have and see in her. And so much of it is she's going one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
But so much of what I'm living in front of her is what matters. And that is hard.
And it's not necessarily what we're telling them, it's what we're showing them.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is striking me because, all of the activities we try to get our kids into.
Yeah.
Thinking about college. So, yes, you will be doing band and you will be doing science club and you will be doing student government. And
Right.
how are they supposed to do it all well and be obedient if we're loading them down with too much stuff? This is a good reminder to me as school gets kicked off, because I basically told my son, you'll be trying out for jazz band.
Oh, wow.
but and he's like, well, I don't know if I really want to. And I'm like, I think you do. But now maybe I need to pull back, because we have to be obedient in what God tells us to do and not do 3 things halfway.
Right.
So they do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think you want to provide every opportunity for your kids. So if they show a particular interest in music, you do want to encourage them in that way, because they don't know, but we also have this this thing around my house that we talk about. You have to decide. Like, I'm trying to teach my kid right now priorities, because I didn't learn that very well for whatever reason. Or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Probably is more the case. But I didn't learn, like, this is the most important thing. Let's do this first. And then everything else can come afterwards. If you have a project or a book to read, that's the first thing on your list. And then, because I think priorities I think that goes back to the whole speaking about obedience and disobedience, your priorities and what God has called you to. Obviously, He's called you gals to be a wife. I don't have that call, so my priority is to be a mom. But it's also, I feel very strongly to serve women, and so I do that in my local church. I feel very strongly to serve here at this ministry, so I do that here. So I think, don't get so hung up on finding your one thing, because I think for so long in my young adult life, when I was a single gal, I used to there's one thing I'm going to do. There's just this one thing that God's going to call me to do, and it wasn't one thing.
Well, and I think over time, too, it changes. They always tell you you're going to have 5 careers, and as a young person, I was like, there's no way. I went to school for this one thing, and I'm going to do that forever. And then you get into your career, and you're like, just different opportunities are placed before you, or you feel called differently as you age.
Could it be that you get more specific about your calling as you get older?
Yes. Yeah.
Because here's what I think. There is one calling for all of us. I mean, as believers, Jesus has called us to make disciples. Go make disciples, whether that's your kids or your spouse or your community or through a radio ministry, whatever it is, you're to make disciples, to know Christ and to make Him known. And so that can look a lot of different ways. And so I think we maybe need to get broader with our one purpose and how it looks, not get so hung up on how it looks. So if your goal in life is to know Christ and to make Him known, that doesn't matter if you're a radio DJ, a sanitation worker, a mail delivery person, a barista at Starbucks. You're going to be knowing Christ and making Him known through everything that you do. So God didn't call you to be, just a housewife. No, He called you to know Him and to make Him known as a housewife. So if we could push away the titles just for a minute and really drill down to our purpose as who we are as believers, I think that our view would open up. Because I thought, I went to school, and y'all are going to laugh when y'all discover this, because I thought I had a communications degree with a concentration in journalism. Can y'all imagine me at a newspaper? I would be a train wreck, because I could not a bit more stick to the facts. I would have to tell you about what color her blouse was and what kind of trees were.
You'd be the most fun person.
That'd be
That'd be for sure.
I also would be probably out of a job right now. But anyway, I just thought that was what God was calling me to do, because I love to write. Now, do I still write? Yeah, I do. Not every day, but I do write a lot, and it looks a little different. But I was looking for that one thing, that one profession, that one job, that perfect fit. And I don't think it's that so much. I think you have to drill down to your purpose and who you are in Christ and get your identity right first and know Him. And then He gives you a lot of different outlets to live that out. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And when you have that as your purpose, as your goal, you are accomplishing your purpose when you go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Or when you buy something from a telemarketer, or all of those things
And
go toward that purpose.
Yeah,
Good
and
works.
I think when you really nail down your purpose, it makes it easier to solidify if you're being obedient or disobedient.
Yeah.
Because you have a greater sense of filter to run everything through and to say this either, meets up with my purpose or it doesn't. Does that make sense, or am I just walking
That's
around
great.
circles?
That's
sense to
actually
me.
great because, in the previous podcast, we were talking about saying no to things. And if you know your purpose and know what you're supposed to do and know your calling, then it makes it easier to nail that down and to be able to say no. And then I think you won't have the guilt because you'll know this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
That's great.
And I think if you make knowing Christ your first priority, which you can't make him known if you don't know him, I'd say that. If you make knowing him your first priority, you will also protect your Sabbath, which we talked about last time too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We don't have all the answers, but we would love to hear from you about obedience, about disobedience, about your call. We would love to have your thoughts. You can always email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. Also, we want to say a great big thank you to the Stoner Group at UBS Financial for being great supporters of this podcast. And hey, don't forget, you can share this podcast with friends, and we would love for you to do that. That's how more people learn about us. If you have an Apple device, please leave a comment or a review on iTunes, because that helps us get more people, the message out to more people. We would love to do that. You also can subscribe there so you don't miss a minute of what goes on here at the Girl Talk Podcast. So thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the Light FM's Girl Talk Podcast.